What do we learn from considering the life of American violinist Edwin Grasse? American violinist Edwin Grasse was a fine violinist and composer and organist, it appears. But what stands out about him? Well, he was born blind from birth. So that shows that you do not necessarily need to be able to see in order to play the violin well. Very well, as in the case of Edwin Grasse, although obviously it helps to be able to see for many reasons, but it is possible to play purely by feel, as Edwin Grasse's example shows. Now, he was born on the 13th of August 1884 and lived to the 8th of April 1954. And as mentioned, he was an American violinist, organist and composer. So his life overlaps with that of Fritz Kreisler and many other famous violinists, but notably it overlapped with the life of Jascha Heifetz, who championed his waves at play, which we'll come on to a little bit later in the video. So it begs the question then, did Heifetz ever actually meet Edwin Grasse in person? I like to hope so, given that they were in the United States for a couple of decades at the same time before Grasse passed away in 1954. So let's go through the main events of his life, and they are actually quite outstanding, more amazing than I actually at first thought. So he began studying the piano at the age of 3 and the violin at age 5. He studied the violin in his native city with Karl Hauser for 9 years before entering the Royal Conservatory of Brussels in 1899. So the fact that he was blind was no barrier to him entering the Conservatoire of Brussels. That shows you how brilliant a violinist he must have surely been. There he excelled under the instruction of César Thompson, earning a Premier Prix in violin and winning the Prix de Capacité in 1901. The latter prize had not been awarded in a decade. He obviously impressed people. In 1902, he made his debut as a concert violinist in Berlin and spent the next few years performing throughout Europe. After returning to New York City, he studied organ with Daniel Philippi. He was active as a performer mainly in New York City through 1940, appearing regularly in concerts at Carnegie Hall, Steinway Hall and Town Hall. He died in New York City at the age of 69. Obviously, he composed many works, including an American Fantasy for violin and orchestra, a violin sonata, other violin pieces and organ pieces, which we'll come on to, the most famous one for me being the Waves at Play characteristic piece. So it begs the question, how did he manage to compose as a blind person? Well, simply put, he dictated his compositions to a accompanist who helped him then to write them down in notation form. His compositions also included orchestral works, including a symphony and a violin concerto, and much chamber music, including a string quartet. We violinists, of course, mostly know him from Wellenspiel or Wellenspiel, perhaps the German pronunciation, or Waves at Play, played by the likes of Jascha Heifetz and Itzhak Perlman. Since all classical music is made up of scales and arpeggios, this is why the professionals always insist on practicing scales and arpeggios. Indeed, it can become so ingrained in a player. Alfredo Campelli's father is said to have still been playing scales on his deathbed. That's how ingrained or as part of his person scales had become. Now the Wellenspiel, should I say, I need to pronounce it the correct German way, let's just call it Waves at Play, is a melodic piece centered around the scale of C major. And that's why I like this piece, because it kind of makes the scale work more interesting and come alive. But it is, of course, a performance piece, and artists such as the ones that we've mentioned have actually recorded this piece of music. Let's look at some further selected works by Grasse then. Sonata in C for violin and piano, opus 14, composed in 1912. The Scherzo Capriccioso for violin and piano, opus 19, also composed in 1912. The Wellenspiel, or Waves at Play, a character piece for violin and piano, composed in 1914. A Song Without Words in G major for violin and piano in 1915. Im Ruderboot, in a rowboat. He obviously liked to give his pieces Germanic sounding names, or German names, for violin and piano 1915. Polonaise No. 1 C major for violin and piano 1915. Promenade à Cheval for violin and piano 1932. So here's a note to self: I really need to check out his other pieces beyond just the Waves at Play, including his violin concerto. I will see if I can find if there's any recordings of that anywhere. It will surely be very interesting to listen to. I believe Heifetz recorded this piece with Emanuel by around about 1945. Now, the New York Times once featured articles about Edwin Grasse. Edwin Grasse, heard in town hall recital, blind violinist, offers program that includes some of his own compositions. Edwin Grasse, blind violinist, appeared in recital at the town hall yesterday afternoon, assisted at the piano by Ada Zeller. Mr. Grasse presented a program that included several compositions not frequently heard, such as Joseph Joachim's Variations in E minor. So he was kind of well known in and around New York in particular. And I would like to just quote a few words from this article on thecrimson.com. It says, "Permit me through your columns to call the attention of the students to the particular significance of the recital announced for Thursday evening, April 2nd, by Mr. Edwin Grasse of New York, who is universally acknowledged to be one of the most gifted musicians of the country in the triple role of composer, violinist and pianist. Although Grasse cannot see external objects, his senses of inner sight and hearing are of marvellous keenness and delicacy, and his touch both on the violin and pianoforte is of unusual beauty and sympathy. This remarkable musician deserves a large and enthusiastic audience, and I personally ask the music lovers of the university to see to it that the new lecture hall is well filled." The tickets for Mr. Grasse's recital are on sale at Amy's bookstore, and the price is 50 cents for reserved seats, 25 cents for general admission. Should be within the power of everyone. I trust my personal assurance may be taken that this is an occasion not to be missed. So this is W.R. Spalding drumming up support, trying to encourage people to attend his concert. So this video was entitled, "What do we learn from Edwin Grasse?" Well, there are many other blind violinists today. We learn perhaps to take note of them and appreciate that they are there, that they can make fine musicians. But the biggest lesson that I draw from this is what a fantastic example this guy was, not just in playing, but also composing wonderful pieces of music. So don't let life get you down. Pick yourself up and keep moving. This is exactly what Edwin Grasse did. Of course, he didn't know any different. He was born blind, but it didn't stop him. It wasn't an obstacle to him making a success of his life. So that's really the lesson that I draw from this, and that's why I really appreciate him. Aside the fact that the Wellenspiel, or the Waves at Play, is an incredibly moving and beautiful piece to listen to. It takes you into a dream world, especially when in the hands of a Jascha Heifetz or an Itzhak Perlman.